The Florida legislature has approved a new congressional map that could help Republicans keep control of Congress in this year's midterms. The state's legislature gave its final approval to the new map yesterday. It came just 2 days after Republican Governor Ron DeSantis unveiled the proposal. The redrawn congressional lines could help give the GOP as many as 4 new seats. Opponents are expected to file lawsuits challenging that move. Meanwhile, in a huge 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court's conservative majority has ruled Louisiana's 2024 election map is, quote, unconstitutional racial gerrymander, delivering a significant victory to Republicans and a major decision that narrows the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965. The High Court upheld a lower court ruling yesterday, saying the state's map makers relied too heavily on race when they redrew the state's voting boundaries. Justice Samuel Alito wrote for the majority in part, quote, plaintiffs failed to show an objective likelihood of intentional discrimination. In her dissent, Justice Elena Kagan said the decision, quote, renders Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act all but a dead letter. The ruling goes well beyond the Louisiana map as it effectively voids one of the last remnants of the Voting Rights Act without directly overturning the law, and opens the door for more partisan congressional maps. President Trump and House Republican and Democratic leadership weighed in on the ruling yesterday.
That's good. Yeah, that's the kind of ruling I like.
They determined that the last map that was drawn for Louisiana was done unconstitutionally, and we've been saying that consistently from the beginning.
Today's decision by this illegitimate Supreme Court majority strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act and is designed to undermine the ability of communities of color all across this country to elect their candidate of choice.
Joining us now, the host of Politics Nation on MS Now, Reverend Al Sharpton. He's president of the National Action Network and MS Now contributor, Mike Barnicle. Guys, good morning to you both. Rev, this is a banner headline this morning in the New York Times. There you can see it across the top. Dealing a blow to the Voting Rights Act, we should say another blow to the Voting Rights Act. What's your reaction this morning?
I think that it's more than another blow. It is probably a devastating blow because it takes the last part of dealing with racial inequality and gerrymandering off the table. I remember in 2014 when we had the decision of Holder. The whole question then was, are we headed toward nullifying Shelby versus Holder decision? Are we nullifying the Voting Rights Act? And I sat during the oral arguments in the Supreme Court and I looked up John Lewis and Reverend Jesse Jackson was there, and then those of us that were active then were looking at them because they paid a price to get that. We've gone now to where you can't even bring up race. Look at the fact that if you look at Mississippi, for example, 37.7% of Mississippi black, only 1 congressional seat. That didn't just happen. And when we look at the fact that during Reconstruction, we went up to 8 blacks on the Congress. When they ended Reconstruction, it was until 1969 before we got 8 blacks in Congress. So there was a deliberate racial scheme. Now we're acting like that is all over with when it is not. And I think on the merits, we had to argue it, but you have a court that went the other way. The question now is, can we deal with it? The answer is yes, because many of the blacks that are in Congress are in swing districts. Many whites will vote for blacks now that wouldn't in years be passed, and many blacks will be energized by this decision. So I think it's a devastating decision, but I think it will, in many ways, inspire a movement of people, black and white, to say we're not going to live in an America that's going backwards despite a backwards Supreme Court decision.
One thing it does and already is doing is open the floodgates now of people redrawing districts all over the country. The Wall Street Journal editorial page in its closing line writes this morning: the Voting Rights Act was a landmark of American liberty and helped to break Jim Crow, but that storied purpose has been twisted over the years by both parties to justify the use of race to gerrymander. The argument by the Supreme Court, by the majority, is effectively like, we should be a colorblind country. We should remove race from any drawing of congressional districts. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that we should be color conscious, and not color blind, given the history of the country. I mean, you can't in 1 or 2 generations get away from the fact that by law we were less than a human, less than equal by law. We're getting ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country. We had to remember blacks were slaves then. We were not at the Declaration of Independence. Some of the signers owned slaves. Now, that doesn't mean you just condemn it. That means it shows that we've grown this far from then. And we should celebrate that growth, not try to return to acting like it didn't happen. Colorblindness suggests that it wasn't there. Being better sighted, clear-sighted is better than being colorblind.
You know what's kind of sad, I think, is that despite we've made enormous progress in race relations in this country, but the historical weight of discrimination based on color still is with us. It still burdens the United States of America, still prevents the United States of America from grasping the claim to being a truly great, universally together nation. And I'm wondering, it's been 61 years since Bull Connor and Selma, Alabama. In terms of progress, we've made progress, as I just alluded to. But this decision sort of, I think, opens the door, gives license to too many state legislatures to turn back the clock.
Absolutely. I think that this does give them the opening to turn back the clock. I think this does say that there are those that will try to legislate to really turn the clock back. But the thing that I won this morning, and many of us leading national civil rights groups are meeting this morning virtually, you can turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. Some of us are not going back, including many whites. And I think that many of our allies and many well-meaning Americans are going to say we're not going back there because we have lived at a time that had made advancement. We have lived under a black president and a black vice president. And when you compare them to the president you have now, most Americans are saying they operated better. So I am confident that we can take this bad and hugely impactful decision and use it to energize to bring America back to where this generation and the generations behind us say, no, we're not going back.
Yeah, and many have said, of course, that equal rights in this country were not really achieved, Rev, until the mid-1960s, and now that's being undone here. And yes, in this short term, analysts were noting that there's such Democratic enthusiasm, the Republicans' poll numbers are so bad that for this midterms, maybe this won't matter that much. But we'll see what it means in November, but also future cycles, if these districts can be so gerrymandered. And now Republicans have rushed to defend this, of course. They're looking at other states, and they're condemning, say, for instance, President Barack Obama, who came out in support of the redistricting in Virginia, but came out against this yesterday, declaring that hypocritical. But explain why you think that's different.
I think that is much different. When you deal with the redistricting in Virginia, you're dealing with that. One was responding to what started in Texas. And secondly, they were dealing with trying to build districts, not based on race, but based on how they could fairly distribute and deal with it somewhat in a partisan way. What's happening in Florida and in other places is clearly tilting it and being totally blind to the fact that you're eliminating seats of color and doing it boldly and proudly. So I think that what President Obama said was absolutely clear and I don't think debatable.
6-3 ruling yesterday. New York Times says decision deals blow to Voting Rights Act. Reverend Al Sharpton, thank you as always. We appreciate it.